Hi, and welcome to the Whole Hog podcast. So today's guest is Hayley Box. Now, me and Hayley are going to be talking about, she was basically navigating having perimenopause and menopause, and then realising in some light of all this happening that actually there was underlying neurodivergency and probably a diagnosis is needed along this way. And this can happen for a lot of women, especially round about that time in your life, because things do start to change. And women were so good at masking things, and we learnt to mask from a very, very young age. So in this episode, me and Hayley just speak openly, honestly, truthfully, have a laugh, and connect and talk all about navigating neurodivergency, navigating ADHD, the system, being a woman, perimenopause, menopause, and all in between, and being mums as well. So I hope you enjoy mine and Hayley Box's chat on the Whole Hog podcast today. And just remember, if you are enjoying these episodes or you love this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with others who you think that this would benefit. Take care.
They're lucky, Hayley.
Is it?
Lucky.
Okay.
So, but it's looking a little fuzzy, but we're gonna roll with today's podcast. So I've got Hayley today on the podcast. We've had a lovely long chat beforehand, and now I could giggle because Hayley didn't realise that I hadn't pressed record yet.
So we're like take two fuzzy version.
I know, and then now we've had a little bit tech issues, and it's looking a bit fuzzy, but we're going to roll with it, and hopefully it's looking good. So we're going to have a discussion today, and basically, I love Hayley because what Hayley's doing is she's highlighting at the moment. She's highlighting a lot of things that she's going through personally, which has been menopause, and then self-diagnosing herself through having issues and knowing that there's something underlying. ADHD, neurodivergency, which a lot of women at a certain age bracket are fitting, and that's what we're speaking about. We're fitting into this. We're fitting into this box at the moment, and we feel like we're all going bonkers. So
I'm feeling a bit fuzzy. I'm at the doctor's. I'm feeling a bit fuzzy. I don't know if it's my menopause or I'm on the spectrum. And yeah, why don't you leave with these pills and that'll sort you out? So that's what we're talking about, isn't it? We're gonna have a bit about it.
Yeah, just basically like what we're chatting before, and it's like, how's this been for you? Like what we're just speaking about for you, because you were getting to that stage where you're like, right, okay, I think it's like menopause because I'm at a certain age and think. Then you hit the point where you were like, no, something's more. Like, what was the process for you in general? Just
Like
what
to
we were
get-
speaking about before, yeah.
Yeah, getting to that point. I just think that what we said but wasn't recorded.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think in my 40s, I was like, you know, always being who I am. I was like, you training, I'm bringing up my kids, running around. And I hit menopause and like pretty early. So I was like 42 in sort of full menopause. So I was a bit ahead of my sort of friend circle and things. And, you know, most of us have our girlfriends and we all talk to each other, don't we, amongst ourselves. And we tend to sort of diagnose ourselves and help each other through our friendship groups, didn't we? So I felt quite out on my own with that. So I sort of was like, God, I'm really not good. I think I actually at that point went to the doctor for something else. And she was just like, oh, how are you? And I was just like, oh, a bit this, bit that. And then I sort of had blood tests done. And it's quite hard to pick up hormonal things, isn't it? But you don't get classed until you're in your menopause, until you have a complete year without a cycle. So I'd done 2 years at that point. So I was really tripping into that quite merrily. But because of who I am, I was just getting on with life and trying to just hide what I was feeling like as well, you know, like trying to manage my kids and things. So the menopause sort of came and I sort of did then go on HRT because that was the way I was thinking, oh, that's the way to go. Like other people have been on it, my friends, da 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 da. So I'm jogging along on that. And then, you know, at this point, I'm now 51. And at this point, I've got 2 children, so they're now older. So they sort of start pushing on you as a parent a lot harder because they're now going out more. The world, wherever we live, is just tougher, isn't it? All the tech, all the ways of trying to parent that, you know, and we're trying to find our ways through that. So my anxiety was the catalyst, really, of realising it was more because it was getting to a point where it was getting unmanageable, you know, because I can hide everything. Because now I understand what I was trying to hide, you know, and then I was just like getting so much overturn and my anxiety, and but it was like to a different level, you know. So I'd be back to the doctors, and you know, we'd fiddle about the HRT, but it wasn't stopping it. And one of my children was struggling a little bit, so I was sort of like on the internet, really just trying to sort of piece together things. And then, really, I think for me, it was a bit of a catalyst time. I sort of stumbled over other people talking about ADHD and autism, and then I started thinking, oh my God, that is me. Talks too much, feeling a bit fuzzy, you know, like, and all these things that I started sitting there thinking, oh my fucking God, this is like literally me before my eyes, and all those things that I'd actually hidden really deeply in me, because this is really tough actually, and this is quite hard to admit for anyone, but I think that self-sabotage is really big with ADHD. I think it's like massive for people anyway, but it's, unless you've got ADHD, it's like this dirty little thing that's like boxed inside you, and it will come up and have a little chat, and you sort of push it back down, don't you? And then probably with masking, it's really good because you know you do that, but it's quite positive in a way because you don't let that come out. You know, you just push it away. And I think that's something I've found really, really hard when I started reading all about the symptoms and things and different things with ADHD. I think that one was a really tough one because it actually sticks quite negatively, doesn't it? But it's not a choosing. It's actually not a choosing, but it is obviously a trait of being neurodivergent. I started sort of ticking the boxes of like, yeah, I'm definitely starting to land down this lane a little bit. So anyway, I'll stop talking because that talking too much is another tick in the box.
Please keep going. Keep going with that. Absolutely.
I think it was just, you know, and you're really on your own because not everyone's neurodivergent either. So I was sort of looking around and thinking, oh my God, like who's like me, you know, like who can I talk to? And I've got a couple of friends now, you know, because they're probably, a couple of my best mates are like, they're sort of in their later 40s, so they're perimenopause. So they're getting, like, when we meet for coffee, they're sort of having hot sweats and they're sort of getting a bit of anxiety. But it's normally for us to talk and laugh about. But mine definitely being that bit further down. And I think now realising with the hormone and your body changing so chemically, it actually is flagging up things so hard. So it's really then hard to go to your GP, like I did, saying, I'm really struggling quite badly with this and that, and you know, like your anxiety, muddly thoughts, feeling overwhelmed, and very then being pushed back down to the menopause and very much pushed into antidepressants. And I'm not depressed. I know that in myself. So that is why I'm so passionate about trying to do what I'm doing now, to try and sort of guide this path through for other women to start sort of resonating a bit and thinking, that is me, and then what to do about it.
Yeah, because that's so important, because GPs will just mostly push antidepressants, or they will just say it's down to age, and we were talking about earlier before we hit record, but we were just saying, and it's because there's a big lack of knowledge around it, around menopause in general, but around people getting late diagnoses as well, because normally it's traits when they're really, really young. You know, kids are really young and they get picked up on having ADHD or certain things, and that's because they do the generalised characteristics of it, like can't sit still, can't do this. But it's such a large umbrella that is under, that a lot of it does just go, you know, you don't fit the criteria, but there's just not enough knowledge, I think, in the general GP when you go and see them. And I think it's not down to them, it's just they've not been trained on that. So when women come and we're at this certain stage of our life, we've probably had all these things when we were younger, what is the matter? And antidepressants just it's not like one pill fits all, or you have your HRT and that's going to make a massive help. It'll help certain things, But if you've kind of got a few things going on at once and
Yeah.
not having a diagnosis, it makes it really, really difficult.
And I think that's the thing of like, then also when you go to people, you know, respected professional people, you're going there because you're asking for help, aren't you? You're asking for like, this is what I feel like, and you're like, answer my problem type of scenario. So when you walk out of there and you haven't got that, you do feel, and this doesn't go away. You know, these symptoms don't just come on like when you feel like it. They're every day. And you're trying to function with your children, aren't you? And you're trying to function in your job, and you're trying to function, and, you know, you're taking supplements. You're trying to, you know, like I stopped drinking. Like I just was doing everything, exercising, and like, you know, everything I could to help myself. But I think what's happened is that there is more knowledge about ADHD and autism and neurodivergent. And I think for the children now, they're getting a little bit more supported. I disagree and agree with diagnoses sometimes, but I think the thing is the ultimate goal is managing yourself and being happy. But I think the trouble is we've become such a society where we have to tick a box, and therefore it's now flooded the gates open that everyone needs to get a diagnosis. So it's almost like sort of filtered down, like actually having ADHD and autism as like, oh, everyone's got it. But actually, if you have got it, it's really, really, you know, it's a really funny and hard thing to live with if you don't understand yourself. So for the children that are sitting here, and if I had little children, I'd obviously have a bit more support and be able to do it that way. But for like my daughter's sort of in her 22, like everything sort of, and my son's sort of 16. So this little bracket now, and all of us women ahead of this, we're all quite lost. And we're all struggling, and we're all having pressures put on us that are starting to flag it up. But now we're able to look and think that's why we're struggling, because we're this. So, you know, there's more information going out there, isn't there? And so we're sort of helping support each other through it, really, and sort of finding the right strategies that work for you. You know, 20 years ago, I didn't know ADHD. Neither did you, maybe yourself, or you haven't, or whatever. But most of your friends diagnose you anyway. But, you know,
that's the thing they do,
isn't it? Yeah, like, and do you know what? It wasn't a problem. But I think because your body changes so much in your latter years, and being quite young going through this now, like I'm sort of at that car crash place where I'm like, oh my God, is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? So what do you do? So I haven't actually, I really found this quite difficult. I read a lot about getting a diagnosis and made a decision that I felt like that I was worthy of having one at my part of life.
Yes,
absolutely. So therefore, reading about the choices that you have. So the NHS, is what we're aware, is just absolutely overloaded. So you're looking at like 5 year plus wait, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're sort of living on the edge every day, I was like, I can't. And also like the funding it yourself, and maybe your children, you're looking at like £800 to £1,000 for each diagnosis if you do it privately. But the thing is that the private diagnoses are fine, but you've got to then fund your medication if that's the way you choose to go. So going back to the NHS, this is something that I found out, and I'll share it because I don't know if everyone knows about it, and I'm going to do a little bit more on my Hayley Box page, but it is that you can do a right to choose pathway. So basically it's offered by the NHS, and because it's sort of offloading the NHS to help, really. So you basically find companies that will do your assessments for you, but basically they're private companies, so they then bill the NHS back. So although the service is there, the doctors aren't really willy-nilly giving these out, because they need to agree that you need the assessment, and therefore they will let you go in and have the assessment done. So I'm doing mine with a company called 360. So basically, when I went to the doctor, I have 10 minutes. I never go to the doctor. You never see the same one, so you don't have that relationship, do you, anymore?
No, you don't anymore, not like before.
So you're hitting just a dry wall, really, aren't you? So I wrote down everything, where I was, everything that was going on with my children, and like my path, that I could see that the genetic thing was where I'd got to myself and how I'd helped myself to this point as well. You know, with loads of different things, trying therapy, all sorts of things, to why I wanted the weight and support for her to sign my application, really, is what it is. And she pushed back on me really hard. Like really hard. I don't cry. And she literally made me cry, told me that I was sort of like, oh God, what's all this NHS, like bloody right to choose? You need to be. And it
Really?
was really bad. She like made me fill out the NHS form and that. And I was trying to get over to her that I felt like it was like I could have waited 5 years. I didn't know if I would last that long. It got that bad, Michelle, where I was
Fuck's
feeling
sake.
desperate, you know, like really,
Yeah.
really desperate. And I only go to the doctor when I've got to a point when I really need help.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
You're not just going just willy-nilly.
Yeah, because like I've lived with this for 50 years. Why all of a sudden now it's a problem? But it was a
Yeah.
problem,
It
you know.
was a
And
massive.
I respect the medical teams, you know. So yeah, that was not easy. That was not easy. She really, really reluctantly signed it. Tea ringing me now. It's all going on. So yeah, reluctantly she did sign it, but yeah, she didn't give it to me easy. I rung the company when I got home and asked why it was so difficult, and I felt so upset for it. And they just said it was just down to funding. And I just felt really sad that I've never asked for help, really. You know, I work, I pay all my this, tax, that. And I just felt really devalued, and I would have just got dismissed with it. Anyway, so I'm waiting a diagnosis, as are my children at the moment. But potentially that should come through by the end of the year. You know, unfortunately, I think because we're so box ticking, everyone feels like they've got to get it, haven't they? But, you know, I think for me personally, the reason of choosing to do it is for the medication. I know I've
Yeah.
got ADHD. And if I felt like I could manage my symptoms, which I do obviously, but to a degree that I actually think I've come off of HRT now and I'm managing myself more herbally and exercise and da da da. And I'm further down the line, so I don't know where I'm sitting on that. But I think if I can actually, you know, maybe try the ADHD medication, will that then help my menopause symptoms and the anxiety? Because that one goes like that. It literally crosses over so much.
Yeah.
Because you have so much overturn. Now with ADHD and the boys and kids, they're all like really hyperactive physically. But for women, it really flagging up your hyperactivities in your brain. And, you know, we're all fuzzy and mad anyway, aren't we? Because we're trying to spin loads of plates. So I think as you get older,
Always.
yeah, you know what? As you get older, it's getting worse. You can't seem to just catch it and put it back into place. Therefore, then anxiety then goes into your body and nervous system and all the rest of it. So my theory of this is that if I could take the medication and it would actually medically change, you know, the transmitters and the communication, will that in theory then change myself, and then therefore I can manage myself better? So that's what I really like intrigued to see at this part of my age, whether that will really help, because, you know, that's sort of why I valued going to get a diagnosis, really. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, to have it, but to have that medication as well, because you're never going to know, especially self-diagnosing now. It's a massive thing, and I think having all the information on the internet or your friends, because they're going through things with their kids, there is so much more out there that you can, like you said, you can look at things and start going, oh my goodness, that's me. I've done that forever, do you know? And it can be a bit of like an eye-opening moment. But if you've tried supplementation, you've tried HRT if you're at a certain age and you're needing that, or just trying different various things to make you feel like you can get on in life and get through. You're never going to know until you get the diagnosis with an ADHD medication if that is going to be not the magic pill, but something that is going to make you be able to feel focused and lift that anxiety and like actually balance how you're feeling daily. Because I know because my daughter's on, she's tried a couple of different medications, but the one that she likes now is the Ritalin, because it's a fast acting one. So she knows that if she needs a day where she's like, I need to be on task, I need to be doing this, she takes it, it acts fast, and she can feel that focus and the brain noise goes.
Yeah.
And that's how she describes it for me. She's like, the brain noise just calms down, everything calms down, that's all going on in here that I know, and then I get focused on my task, and then it starts wearing off later on in the afternoon so I can get a good night's sleep, because she's had stuff before, and she's had stuff and she couldn't sleep, and you know, because she was always up during the night. And so, but again, it's finding that balance. But there's so much out there that can help with things like that.
And that's so interesting. That like your daughter's, how old's your daughter? Don't mind me asking.
She's just turning 19, and she's been on she's been on different medications for probably about the 2 years now. But that's her. She came completely off them.
Yeah.
And then now she's like, no, I can see that I'm slipping, and when I need to focus, my
Yeah.
brain's too noisy and I can't focus on the task. I'm away doing 10 things at once. So when she has that, she's like, it just gives me that alignment and focus to just get on with it.
And
But
that is something that's why I feel for all these women, all of us that are, undiagnosed later on, what do you do when you don't have that? Because I'm then in bed and I'm like, am I awake because of my menopause and I'm hot and all the rest of it? Is my overturn? It's just that you can't stop that. So then, like, sort of, yeah, it explains itself between what we've just said, doesn't it? Like, it speaks volumes for people like and women like me that actually are really at this crossover place that actually maybe you really do need to think about getting a diagnosis because you need that other tool in your box to be able to cope. We don't need to be on antidepressants because I'm not depressed. My brain just works this way. I'm literally, it's not that. I don't see having a plaster on something and getting out the doctor's door resolves it. It's more powerful. I'm a woman that wants to manage myself and leave my children to who they are because there's so many like great things about having ADHD, isn't there, and stuff, but actually just being able to have a night's sleep and not getting too much, and that is it. That's where you start feeling like you are. Because you start literally thinking, what the fuck? And every day you're like it. You're trying to go to sleep and then, all of us, we're busy, aren't we? Everyone's got their things they're thinking about. But I think when you've got an ADHD brain and I don't remember it being like this when I was younger. Like as much overturn. I literally don't. Probably maybe when I was a child, looking now, I can look at myself. I think of the things that I was like when I was quite young and the sort of self-sabotage thing when I was a little girl. I sort of definitely think I was more aware of that side. As I've got older, you become more comfortable in yourself, and I can push that away. I don't need that. But I think the overturn and the thinking and the worry about your children, that's just normal feed for any woman, isn't it? So to have ADHD and that, and then the balance all changing, you can't sort of seem to get off the ride of it. Doesn't seem to sort of stop. And like I used to drink, party, and whatever. I do have a drink now, but I don't drink like I used to because it's like having beer fear every day. Like if people are listening to this and don't even have it, it is like, oh, what did I say? What did I do? It's almost like that all the time, isn't it? And yeah, I probably would have said it as well. I would have held and waited it. Yeah, when you'd have gone, shit, I shouldn't have said like, oh, look at her shoes or something. I probably would have said it. Yeah, so it's a really funny time for women to try and really, I think the strengths in it, all of us were like trying to just put it out there and be real and put our own personal selves aside. All of this Instagram thing. I mean, I literally only started like March. Oh my God, like what I've learned and taught myself in the last few weeks, and being like neurodivergent, it's really difficult. Like I find it really, really hard. Even getting on here with you, I was like, because I don't want to read. Like I can't read the things, and my brain's going blah, 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 too quick. And yeah, like it's hard. The world that we're living in as well, isn't it? Trying to keep up with it. Anyway, so I think like it's quite interesting to sort of see. I'm really quite interested to see when I get diagnosed what it's going to be like.
Yeah, and that's going to be really interesting for us to come back to
Yeah,
and speak about again, because now you've been on this journey, you're starting it, recognising it and going through this process in the middle, like the muddy middle,
yeah,
excuse me, the muddy middle section. And then once you do get the diagnosis and that's where you're wanting to go, is to have the medication to see how this
yeah,
helps you manage everyday symptoms of having this. It'll be really interesting to see if that makes, how that actually has impacted you,
yeah,
going forward. But I think your Instagram and everything you've been doing is amazing because you're so real, you're so honest, you're just so fucking you, and I love it because that's what people need. Because it's fair enough people saying, oh, I might have this, I might have that, but just watching somebody and then that's how we're learning. And you go, that's how I feel, or that's what I'm going through, and that this is when the internet, or Facebook and Instagram and all that is so good for connecting on things we really, really need.
I think it saved me. do you know what? I've got, like I explained, I've gone to the doctor, I come back and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why can't I snap out of this? I can't, and I'm taking supplement. I was sort of, like starting to piece it together. It was really like really powerful. I was just like reading stuff about myself really, and I was just like, bloody hell. It literally like was like bloody hell. Yeah, you know what? And it's really hard because it's such a grey area. Unless you slightly are on the spectrum, you don't really get it. Like my husband isn't. So he's very black and white, very like that. And so that's difficult in a sense. I mean, we've been married 30 years soon, I mean, like how we probably outlasted a few bets, like 100 times. But, like I'm never going to get his brain, like he's never going to get my brain,
Yeah,
but when
totally
you
not.
do live in that brain, it's really difficult because actually it's for the people that are in the grey area, on the spectrum, because I look fine, I look okay, I look normal. People are like, what are you worried about? I don't tell anyone because I don't know. I will only speak to people that are relatable to me, because I've learned that actually, and that's why you hide it all.
Yeah,
How
'cause it's
if someone
difficult.
doesn't understand, how do they understand? It's every day, Michelle, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
every day. Even before I got on here this morning, I got up and I'm got that overtone going on. I was a little bit anxious. I was a bit, and then I pulled myself back and there, like, and that's all the time. It's not, and it's not like chosen to be like that. I choose to correct it every day.
yeah,
I
yeah,
choose to
that's
pull myself
important. Yes,
to
yeah.
pull myself back. I choose to like think, right, this is all I can do today. And do you know what? I can't do any of the things,
Having
that whole,
some grace for yourself. Yeah, having grace for yourself and saying
yeah,
this is all I can do for today instead
yeah,
of I need to be doing this, I need to overcome this. It's being
yeah.
gentle with yourself.
I think those are the things that I've learned later, because actually you physically get that bit more tired. Like I work, I'm a hairdresser. I stand like 12 hours a day plus behind a chair, and then I get in, I'm knackered, like, and that's something I haven't got the physical energy like I used to. And then like on the offset, the menopause as well, like all your joints are aching and all these things. So it's really frustrating because you're not who you were, and you're trying to manage your mind. So you think, oh, I'll go out for a run, and then I'm like, oh God, my hips blowing up, my knees are blowing up. It's like it's trying to find your way, isn't it? To be fair, I did have a chocolate croissant before I came on, but hey ho.
Hey, we're allowed to have the treats like that. It's totally
Like, yeah.
alright.
But that is another thing that, like, I sort of looked at that, and how much we med with food, and like mine's always been sugar, like literally sugar. But now I
Yeah, sugar
realise,
monster here.
that sugar is dopamine hit, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I literally in the morning will get up, have tea, and I would have to have biscuits. And I've been like that all my life. And when I started reading about your brain and the chemical and the dopamine and what, I'm like, it's really weird being older and living with ADHD all this long. How you've survived this long? Do you know how you've got here without any help? And I don't think I would have been seeking a diagnosis if my symptoms weren't such a car crash. If I felt like I was a bit better, I'd probably jog along, and that might be right for some women, but for some women, it's pushing a bit harder in different
yeah.
areas. So diagnosis and things like that is literally personal, isn't it?
It is a personal thing, and it depends on like if you can cope or if you can't cope, or if things are getting to a head where you're like, I really, really cannot cope with this anymore, because a lot of us have dealt with it my whole life. And God, I remember back now, you were talking about when you were younger, and it was like there wasn't anything like stand out-ish, but now going through it with my daughters, and it's like I used to fall asleep every night listening to music. I'd always have to have headphones in, and they weren't the cool headphones now. Like they were the ones that I'm
Yeah,
surprised I never choked myself in my sleep, because they were the ones that went over your head. You know what I mean? And had a big,
yeah,
big
like the
string that
wire.
attached. And I used to every night, because my brain, and I used to be like, why did I do that? It's because my brain was always so noisy. I
Yeah,
used to just put that on just so I could just not hear anything and just concentrate on it. It was just music, like stuff I used to listen to,
yeah,
just silly things, but it just was so overlooked because I was the quieter one,
yeah.
and it's And it's so funny when you think about that. And yeah, chocolate. Always, I've been a total chocoholic
Yeah, like
my
it's
whole life, and it's like you need that chocolate, that sweetie fix.
that is it, isn't it? Like you've got to the place that you are, so you will have made all your coping mechanisms anyway. You know, like
Yeah,
you will. I think what's quite difficult probably now is that we have, and maybe that's why it's kicked up about neurodiversity because of the tech. I think the world has become so much faster paced, isn't it? And the expectations of us having to keep up.
and to keep
I
up.
know myself, like, with my children, I've got one at uni, one this, running cars, running houses. I mean, that's all on your phone, isn't it? And can you remember your password? No. And you're like, oh God, now I've lost. It's continuous, isn't it? Literally, isn't it? If it's not one fucking thing, it's another. You're not left alone. And, the whole scrolling thing of going on your phone, well, you can't
The
stop
doom
it, can
scroll.
you? You
Yeah.
just start rolling. And then you're sort of like, and it's dangerous because you're then, unbeknown to you, you're like feeding all that overspill, aren't you? So, I do think that the phone is good and bad for loads of things, but I think if you're neurodivergent, it's definitely pushed it a little bit harder because there's no time out. Where before you would go to work, come home, you were just in your house, weren't you? Now, and I'm feeding that as well because I'm on Instagram now, aren't I? So, but I'm having to manage myself with that as well because
Yeah.
I know it will be too much,
Yeah.
and things like that because it's new to me in my time of life and stuff. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because we're being asked a lot more of ourselves.
But definitely, it's like we've got all this technology at our hands, but as well, I think when you've got this brain that wants to then just get focused on that one thing, and sometimes that's when the phones can be really hard because it can make it can make procrastination so much harder because you're literally just there and you get sucked into it. And a
Yeah,
task, if uploading something from myself, I'm like, right, I'm going to upload something, it's content, it's, blah, blah, blah. And you do it, and then you get so sidetracked, and then start looking, and then before you know it, and I'm like, I could sit here for an hour, and then you go
yeah,
back in again, and then you go back in again, and it's like it's like your brain just wants more and more and more of it throughout
yeah,
the day. And that's when it starts getting overwhelming, I would say.
yeah,
And sometimes it's like having that in place to say, this needs to go and I need to do this, but then it's having the strength in yourself
yeah.
to say that needs to go because I need to focus on that.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? The phone is its own little demon in itself, and like maybe when we're a bit older, we've probably got a bit more discipline, And I know then myself, being non-neurodivergent, it's that like I need to leave that now. Where I've got two kids that are at an age where I think if a van came round and said put your phones in them, I'd chuck mine in there. They wouldn't, would they? Because it's just such a part of their life. Interestingly, at the moment, my daughter actually, she's just taken herself off of social media for a break. So I'm really proud. I'm really proud of her for that because she's recognising in herself she needs to just stick in her lane.
Needs to
And
just
and the thing is, it doesn't matter. You and I sitting here talking. Actually, if we were on mute, neither of no one would know what we were talking about. Sorry if you're listening to the podcast, but we look fine, don't we? So like no one can tell what's going on in someone's brain and how they're managing. I think that's where it's really difficult to get over and like get people to understand what it is that's going on. And
yeah,
I think that's where the support is difficult because it's a spectrum, especially like with the education and the kids and the schools, it's very box ticking. If you don't fit in that box, then that is it. And that's why I called myself Hayley Box, because it is a little bit like we've all got that box in ourselves, but life has become so you've got to comply to this, you've got to comply to that. And if you don't, well, actually, you don't get any help. You're on your own. And that is how the vibe feels at the moment, especially like at our age. I think it's dangerous. I think, women are really strong. We're just strong in our force, aren't we? We have children. We dig in and we get on with it and stuff, I think to sort of sit in this seat, and this happened to me in this latter part of my life, I never saw it coming. This should be the good bit. This should be the bit, isn't it, when your kids are like getting a bit off more hands, you're getting time for yourself and but it doesn't matter if I was sitting in the Maldives or in a prison, I'd still have it with me. It would still not take it away. you know, and that's when it becomes really your own thing, and you know, you do hide it because I've got to get on, I've got to go work tomorrow, I've got, you know, I've got to sort out what's for dinner
Life goes
later.
on.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
but it
know,
doesn't stop.
it doesn't stop, you know. And I think I definitely had some points where I was like, I need to get off, I want to get off the ride. And I felt like I just didn't know where to turn because I'd been to doctors, I'd been to therapy, I'd been to this, I'd uncovered every stone I could possibly do to help myself, wondering what the fuck was going on with me.
Yeah.
The desperation of that is awful, you know, and it's going to be a long time for the GPs to catch up, really.
Yeah, it is.
They're overloaded as it is, aren't they? It's almost sort of, unfortunately, not down to them. There almost needs to be like another sort of, you know, another thing there that people can sort of like to offload the GP
That they
thing.
can access that in between part.
Yeah, like, you know, for women, like, you know, because the menopause has come a long way. Like Davina's, like, you know, made that a massive thing.
She has.
You know, but that's all been on social media. So as bad as and good as it is, you know, she's spread the word. A lot of people, even my husband knows who Davina is. He's like, well, can't you put one of them patches on that Davina's got? I'm like, oh yeah, good. That'll really sort it out. You know, like, and that's it, isn't it? So getting out the information out there, getting a bit more support between us out there, and you know, making people not feel like they're alone and they're going literally crazy. Because I think if you're at that crossroads, yes, you need to address your menopause. For you, you know, you need to like work on those symptoms for yourself, whether it's HRT or whether you like look down sort of herbally, depending on how you're managing it. Some people sail through it. Some people literally like have a horrendous time, don't they? But
Yeah.
again, I think that same with the ADHD, it's like, you know, working out where now you may be seeing that in yourself. Is it a problem for you? Are you not coping with those symptoms? You know, and it could be those that you need to address more than just the menopause, because they will cross over. It's trying to pick out where you are to like where you're sitting with it all. And like, I don't know if we said this on this one or the last time we were talking.
Our first,
It is
our
like we're a
pre-podcast.
generation. Yeah, it's like we're a generation of women that we're at this top end and not diagnosed, aren't we? So, and the women that are in their 40s and the women that are perimenopausal in their 30s, they're going to be walking in my shoes. So I don't try and get as much information and try and make this path easier for that next generation of transition and my daughter and your daughters. You know, men don't have to sort of deal with such hormone fluctuations as well. And I think because we mask it so well, we are just living in a bloody nightmare, really, aren't we? Because if someone knocked at my door now, I'd probably go, oh, hi, like, you know, and then come in here and be like, oh, what are we talking about? You know, like, you're so roller coaster-ish, you know, and as your body gets older, you can't quite do what you were doing. So you will have a bit more downtime. So you will be sitting there in your own thoughts a bit more in that sense. But that's when you've got to take action, definitely, and work it out.
No, you definitely do. And it's thinking like, and I love how you said about like online and putting that information out there for the next generation, and having that and having the middle part. Like, I don't think I've never heard of anything being the middle part. Like, do you know, like the GP, and then it's like before getting a diagnosis or before like the menopause, like there isn't any like support groups, or there's nothing that there is that middle part. I've never heard of that before. Apart from accessing stuff online, it's either the doctors or, well, that's it, really.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're sandwiching in now, aren't we? Because we're suddenly, you know, going, oh my God, this is happening to me. So we're all sort of talking and sharing to try and get you through that middle part. Because I can't see, maybe in the future there'll be things, you know, like where you'll be able to have a bit more of a hub, but it's probably going to end up online, isn't it? Because it's funding and stuff for these things. But as long as the information's out there, and as long as there's the support there and there's people being recognised for that, then at least you can listen, at least you can connect with people, at least that gives you a path for you to think, okay, I'm in my lane, I'll try this, or I'll understand that about myself. A lot of things is knowledge, isn't it? Once you have knowledge, you know, you start looking at yourself and you start understanding and breaking down what are my symptoms, what is causing me the worst things, what is, you know, so you can start working through. Then you can then decide whether you feel like you need a diagnosis or not. I think just, you'll know you've got ADHD or autism. It's more that the fact, do you want to take like medication? I mean, I would have actually really tried all these like gummy things they've got all on there, but some of them are all mushroom based, aren't they? And I'm allergic to mushrooms. I thought, how's your fucking luck there? Honestly, honestly to God, honestly, you know, you
You're
just
like,
think,
oh,
bloody hell, I might as well just smoke weed and get stoned, and maybe I'll just do it every day and just keep rolling.
so just
Isn't
have a
it?
spliff in the morning. Just
Yeah,
a
you just think,
spliff
oh,
a day.
right. I mean, and you get like, oh, should I just drink every day? And it just one day just rolls into another, doesn't it? You know, like it's a funny time in a woman's life, definitely. And you know, like 50 years ago, and I've thought about that. I've thought about my mum because my mum doesn't know she's autistic, but my mum's quite bad as she's got older, and she's definitely got worse. And so I was reflecting that in me that I didn't have that sort of mum, but now I understand why because of the spectrum that she is. And I've
Yeah.
sat there and thought, how did my mum get through all these years and stuff? Because they didn't talk, did they? They literally didn't. They must have been living hell, really. But I
Yeah.
also think that life is very different. You know, my mum did work for a bit, but my mum retired. She ran a home. She wasn't being pulled on. I left home at 19. She had time to sort of get her head round it, you know, and she took her B6 and she did do HRT and she wouldn't have had any information. So she'd have just got on with it. And there is that degree of all of this. You have got to get on with it. You are who you are. You know, no magic pill's going to come along and take it away. And nor that you want it to, because you are who you are. It's just understanding and supporting yourself enough that you can feel happy and be able to be who you need to be as you for yourself and as a mum and a wife and whatever else you are in it, you know.
And just recognising at different times of the month as well, which is a massive thing, because different times of the month, women feel different anyway, in
Yeah.
general. You know, you go through your stages, but that it's like, and I can feel it at certain times of the month, you know, I can't cope with things the same as I could before, because again, it's a fluctuation in hormones. So it's really like, it's like we're having to learn ourselves all over again. It's like we're relearning our own selves. What is it that at a certain time of the month, this is how we start to feel, okay, what could I do to help me in that time I need to get me through the stage? And but it's really like we really are relearning ourselves and then not, I know we're laughing about it, like having a joint or having a drink to get like through it. But some people probably would catch on that because they're like, I can't cope with what's going on or how I'm feeling, and it's like overwhelming. So they will have a drink, or you know, some people they will have that. You know, each to their own and whatever they need to do. But then that's another whole ball game because then it's just masking their feelings and they're not getting to know themselves. So it's a
But I
really
think that
really
is,
hard one because we are really relearning ourselves as women
yeah.
all through our bloody ages. As girls, as women, going through our bloody the change of life when we're whatever age we ended up doing that, and then now this is happening at a latter
I
end.
think, like you said, and that's the thing to laugh about, drinking the drugs and all the rest of it. But do you know what? That's exactly what they're there for because they literally become your help, don't they? You go there because it makes you feel happy, you know. And I know when I drink, like I've only got one voice going on in my head, like mine, and I'm like, oh, let's like, you know, I'm like the craziest person when I've had a drink. But you know, like, and you can see why all these things and over generations, like everyone does because it makes everyone feel happy, doesn't it? Most of the time. So, you know, you can see like what the chemical does to the brain and things like that, you know. So you can that everyone's just coping, aren't they? They're finding their things to get through. It's interesting what you just said about that, about you know, through going through your cycle. It's really weird because obviously I haven't had one for a long time, but it was something that I thought about the other night. It was I will have a period. I don't want to say period actually because I'm not. Yeah, that. But I have like through that, say through a month, I would definitely say some of my nights are way more restless, way more like hot, way more. And I wonder that's when I would have had my cycle. Do you know what I mean? Because your body,
Right, yeah, so
although
you're
it's
still
shut
getting
down,
that.
yeah, though it's shut down, I would say I definitely have times where, you know, I have a good couple of nights where I'm like really more like, yeah, like much hotter. And like I had that probably about a week ago. Now I've been a little bit more normalised, I would say. So it's still there, even though I'm not getting the release. It's still there that way.
Hey,
Or the
oh, so you're
fact that
still
I am
coping,
a
but it's
fucking
like the
witch and it's a
symptoms are
full
all
moon.
still there. Yeah,
So
it's
yeah, your
going
body's
through.
still still there, isn't it? And things. So, you know, it's funny then with HRT, because HRT, correct me if I'm wrong, I was on the pill when I was young. Loads of us don't we? So, but that sort of obviously stopped you getting pregnant. So therefore, it facilitated like no egg release. I mean, I'm no doctor, so that was
Yeah,
that. So you go on to HRT. Am I not right in thinking that it's still reducing your estrogen and all the rest of it? So you're almost not going through the menopause. It's like stalling it. Am I
yeah.
correct with that?
I'm sure that's what it is. Yeah,
That's how I see it. So my other thing is with that, I'm not like saying, but it's mindful about getting through stages in your life, taking HRT, isn't it? Because it might be that you do it for 5 years while, you know, you're here and your kids are this and that, and then maybe when you're 60 you might think come off of it. But at some
yeah.
point, unless you're going to be like, I'm going to have it for the rest of my life, I mean, the facility might not even be there. You've still got to go through the shutdown of a woman's body, haven't you?
I know, and
Maybe.
it's such a. See, when you say it like that, the shut down a woman's body, it is so true. That's literally how it can feel.
Yeah.
From when you're younger, you're watching your body go from what it was to then having these hormones all in place, and you're dealing with all these hormones, and then you're having a period, to then on the flip side, it's the same thing. It's all bloody happening, but just in a different, in a whole different way.
Yeah, your body's like shut down, isn't it? But then
Yeah.
in my own mind thought and being knowing my body by always exercising and I'm a strong person, I thought of at the beginning of like deciding with the HRT thing as well. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get through this, I'll just tough it out, you know. I'm a bit like, oh, that'll be fine, just get on with it. And then going on HRT. Yeah, you know what, it did help, but then that's been quite mindful. I've come off of it. So I weaned myself off of that. I've weaned myself off antidepressants. I'm on nothing now because I want to have a clear slate, because I want to know what it's going to be like to take the ADHD medication on its own, to know exactly what's working and what's not. Do you know? And if that stops like the anxiety type thing and the overturning my brain, which I thought my sort of HRT was going to do that, but it didn't. So I'm thinking, I'm understanding that the overturning my brain is being caused by the ADHD, which then causes me anxiety. So I decided to come off the HRT. And I'm managing it all right. You know what? I can rock out a few hot sweats. It's not brilliant, but you know, and all the other things. But you need to sort of educate yourself what you can do with that. I mean, diet is probably massively important. And do you know what? In and out with diet. I sort of, like normal women, you sort of have weeks where I'm really good and dinners are all done, and then there I am stuffing a chocolate croissant in my mouth today, and I'm working this week, so it's a crisp sandwich when I get in. You know, like it is what it is, isn't it?
It is what it
It's
is. Yeah.
normal.
It's
African
a
women,
balance.
amazingly, that they're that disciplined and they, you know, they get their food sort of thing. But I do think food and the sugar thing's massive with like your cope, but it's a coping again, isn't it? You know, like if I've got to get through the day, I'm like, oh, it's going in my mouth. I need to like carry on. I can't, you know, sort of, isn't it? It's because of not having that dopamine there. That sugar thing is a bit of a nasty little wheel, isn't it? Because you will grab it to cope. And I noticed that in my children, especially my youngest. He will literally like jog himself along with that all the time. And, you know, that's children as well, I know, but you can see the mechanism of the need to have it to kick things in. So same as your alcohol and whatever in it. It's quite a fascinating subject, but I think to actually learn about your brain and your chemicals and what it's doing in your nervous system and all the rest of it. Honestly, the fact we are the most incredible things, aren't we? The human body. And we have all the answers sitting there in ourselves. And I think that's the thing. We've come so far away from listening to ourselves, and we want to peel and we want to answer. And, you know, that's it will support it, but it is within us, isn't it? So it is probably a lot more, you're going to be a lot more open to sort of, you know, slowing down and doing some more natural things and talking and coping and, you know, like maybe a bit more spiritual stuff and just learning who you are. But that comes with age. You don't get wisdom and be a wise warrior without words, do you? With learning these things. And, you know, I think the life has become so fast paced. The kids don't stand a chance at the moment, do they? Because they're completely like, oh, what mum, what mum? You know, they're like, bah, you know, not interested. But I think as you learn yourself as a woman, and when you are going into those years of shutting your body down, you have to come to terms with the change, don't you? So you have to embrace it. So you do become there is that saying, isn't there? Like, what I wish I knew now, what I knew, or whatever it is. But that is it, isn't it? That the wise
Yeah,
lesson you've learned in your life. But then
yeah,
it's to share it. And that's what's so
yeah.
important with what we're doing now, is trying to share it, trying to help other people. So it will make the path a bit easier, getting through these sort of years a bit easier, hopefully. Hey, now
Definitely.
me
But
and you are
yeah,
going to see each other at the weekend, aren't we now? Because you, like me, I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to book a flight. And you did as well. So we're going to share.
I know. It was just last minute. It was like, yeah, let's just do it. I was like, nah, I'm not going. I can't. Yeah, no, yeah. And then I just looked at the flights and I was like, done.
Yeah, well, that exactly me. And that's
I
the
didn't
funny
know how I
thing.
was getting to the airport. I didn't know how I was getting
No.
a lift to the airport, what was happening when I landed in Dublin. I just knew that I was going, and that was it.
But that was me, and you know that's the thing when you can understand your brain, because I did exactly the same, and then all of a sudden I get this like it's this, well, whatever the words are, I
And
can't even speak, you know what I mean? And that's it, isn't it? So yeah, no, it's fine, and our flights are coming at the same time, so we just hop in a cab together. So that worked out perfect, and we did
no,
not
it was. It's actually,
did
we
it.
never even planned it. I know.
So yeah, crazy. Isn't it weird how our paths have crossed, isn't it? You know, like it's really funny, and like I think we've met some or meeting some incredible people with doing what we're doing with the book, can't we? So
I know.
yeah, it's been quite inspiring, and for me, I think coming through this period of life and sort of working along this path and getting
Yeah.
to talk to some new people that you know, like you starting to resonate with people, aren't you? And you know, there's such a diverse amount of people. So, you know, it isn't one size fits all, is it? So we're getting to talk with different people and things, and you know, it's quite interesting sort of
It's
thing to
very
be part of,
interesting.
isn't it? You know?
It's very interesting, and like it's if we knew that knowledge, like I always say, if I knew the knowledge, which like you said, it's a part of being older and it's our wisdom and that. But if we knew, see, if I'd known that like 20 years ago, and I had the confidence that I have now in myself, now
Yeah,
I'm at the stage I'm like, fuck
yeah.
it, But if I had that confidence and the knowledge 20 years ago, I think I would have been, I would have been like, holding it back like a rocket ship.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's
and
never
it
too
does
late,
come to you
Michelle.
as you get older. It does come to you as you get older. But now we're in that place where we do want to share and we do know ourselves. And I think it's a good age because we're kind of at that age where we're like, we've done the mistakes, we've done this, we've done that. We don't give a shit. We're here to just, be women and uplift other people and just help other women as much
I
as we
think, and
possibly
that's
can.
it, isn't it? And inspire, like being individual people and being comfortable who you are. I've never cared what anyone thinks of myself. I know who I am, and that's all I think is when you don't know who you are and you're having to, you know, ring up your mate and go, "Oh, what are you wearing?" and all that. You know, like I was never like I think, and so for the younger girls, you want them to like learn to be their own women, because I think where they have that whole, like, they're seeing what everyone's doing. Everyone looks the fucking same, don't they? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Because there's
Honestly,
trends and stuff online now. Yeah.
like when I look back and stuff, and you think of all them girls' holidays you've had, you know, when I've sort of done all the Magaloofs and Iron Nappers and all that. Thank God it was still like those cameras, like the winding up cameras. Because like those pictures are gone, but no one was put together. You know, you just was out having fun, weren't you? You were just like,
Yeah.
and you were like fumbling your way through life because no one was telling you X, Y, and Z, were they? So you know, we were so much freer. We were so much freer. We had so much. We could be who we were, and we didn't know who we were, but we were allowed to experiment to find out who we were. Now, I mean,
Exactly.
honestly, people are trying to experiment, trying to find out who they are, and the only way they're going to do that is if they feel like they want to be a fucking cat. I mean, what's that all about? Sorry, that's not disrespectful to anyone wanting to be a cat. I don't know. I mean, not being funny, but like everyone's so desperate, everyone's so lost, everyone's exploring every avenue, aren't they? You know,
But
you
it
sort of
is
think,
because, yeah, but it is, it's that, like, that's it's such an important thing, but it's that feeling of being lost or not being themselves or not knowing who they are. So that's another avenue that they've thought, well, if I explore that, is that going to bring me closer to who I think I am? Do you know what I mean? Like you said, when we were younger, it was just like nobody knew what you were up to. You were just out getting up to mischief and on holiday. You got photos done, and then you didn't want to show anybody. Well, actually, probably the people that were like that used to hand the camera in.
Yeah.
And you'd be like that, oh God, I wonder what they've seen all the photos before we even have. Do you know, and then
Yeah.
you'd get up and you'd be like, oh, cut that up, that's nobody's seen that again.
Yeah. And that's it, isn't it? But that was yours. That was for you and
Yeah.
Snappy Snaps or wherever they went, Fuji Films or
Yeah.
wherever the pictures went, wasn't it? Where now you've got all that exposure and stuff. So I think for women, like for us women now, we need to make this more like real. You know, we need to be more real. These kids are now girls and that. They need to understand about being their own and learning, you know, learning from each other and being kind and stuff, isn't it? You know, it is
Yeah.
about championing women up. Like I said to you, you just look fucking amazing. And that's not because I'm like, oh, look at her. That really isn't.
Yeah.
From my heart, you look so good, Miss Elle. And I can say that honestly because I just think you do.
It's coming from a place that you,
Yeah,
yeah,
like, you know, and like, you know, like I just think women actually can be kinder as we get older to each other. We've done our job, haven't we? Maybe we're less competitive and not even knowing that we were. We're becoming more accepting and actually then going through what I'm going through and like understanding myself in my 50s. You know, it's been quite challenging of sort of understanding like who I am. You know, like or then reading it and thinking, oh my God, what the fuck? Like it's
yeah.
been quite a weird. I like it's weird. I don't want it, do I? You know, you still sort of want to be like everybody else, but what is everybody else? You
I
know?
think everybody else has got their own, that's the thing,
Yeah.
everybody's got their own quirks, and there's so many, and the more you're speaking to people are, especially women now, or probably guys are the same, but I can't speak for a man because I'm not a man.
Not yet.
Us women, definitely not, definitely not. But it's we are being more open now about speaking about all the issues that we've had.
Yeah.
And I don't know if girls do that when they're younger. You know, when I was younger, we definitely never. It was just bitching about just silly things that were happening at work, or do you know, it wasn't anything
Yeah.
deep. Now and then, like you said, the competition. Like I worked in a salon, and that's what I done. I had my own hair salons, so you're always in that competition with women in that way, even though you were, but it was a competition environment.
Yeah.
And now being in that in your own now as you get older, you do want to just tell somebody like, you look great, you look beautiful, what you're doing is amazing, and uplift each other. But I don't know if the younger girls do that. Do you know now,
No.
because there's
I
more
think
awareness of that online? Because people
yeah.
can look on TikTok and there is a bit more like female empowerment, but then in some ways there's some people who are kind of, because of what they've chosen to do in life, they're kind of stripping that away for some women as well. So it's
Yeah.
a very weird area. Like some
Yeah.
influencers that are doing things out there that are a bit like, whoa. So it's like now girls are got access to seeing this from a
Yeah.
different point of view. Do you
Yeah.
know, it's like it's taking the women empowerment, and it's a weird area for the younger ones, I think, definitely.
And that's the thing. And if you're a girl at that age and you are neurodivergent and that self-sabotaging and all of that, that connection and looking at all of that on social media, they're not where we're sat, are they? They haven't got the wisdom in their pocket like we have. And you know, they're not grown women yet, are they? And they're having to sort of master themselves through this time. And especially when you do, you know, you are sort of having your flaws in that sense of being neurodivergent, but also then you've probably not got the confidence either to be like, oh God, I'm ADHD, and you know, and all the fun things and all the great stuff that you are
That comes
when you
along
are,
with that.
because
Yeah.
you are trying to comply with fitting in the box again, aren't you? Because everyone
Yeah.
else's format is like that. You know, you're not going to go lipping up on the bar because, oh God, someone's going to take a picture of you now, video you, and you know, you holding yourself back, aren't you? So everyone's not been able to be themselves so much, are they? And we're all trying to be forced into something. But then when you're that brain type, it's really difficult, isn't it? Really difficult.
Yeah.
For
Yeah, and
really
I think
difficult.
because for instance, like my daughter is, and again, it probably depends on where you are. It's no masking, but it's almost like because they're at an age where they're trying to find themselves anyway. But with their neurodivergency, they can sometimes attach onto other people's personalities or how
Yeah,
they, you know. So it's kind of like they're still finding themselves, but they'll pick up traits of what that other person is doing, and they start like latching onto that and mimicking that, and that's, I think, where, yeah, social media on that side can be a little bit hard for them to keep themselves away from Like,
Yeah.
I'm not attaching to what that person's doing. I don't like their values. I don't like their message or whatever. I'm going to do me. You do that
Mm,
when you're older, but when
mm,
they're younger,
mm.
that can be like, oh, that's a good way to be. That's a good way to act. And that's when it can be, yeah, like you said, the brain's different for picking up certain
Yeah.
things.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When I grew up, it would have been like, you know, I don't know, however many friends I was just with, you know, and so
Yeah,
therefore
yeah.
you were able to like manage yourself so much better being
Mhm.
neurodivergent and not knowing it, obviously, because you know you just fit round that little group. Where now it's so much bigger, so much harder for them, isn't it? Like and stuff, and you know, and they're still having all their hormonal cycles and things. I would imagine most girls, I'm gonna guess, most girls that are in those year groups are pretty much on the pill. So it's stabilising that. There's quite a lot I've learnt with ADHD, and it's really, really weird. There's so much like posture and body and the hypermobility and all the physical stuff that goes with ADHD that I have taught myself. There's something my daughter's always struggled with, sort of like eczema and things like that. It's all sort of hand in hand, but it's been really interesting learn about histamine and how that affects. And I think sometimes with the girls at that age, they're sort of, you know, maybe they're on the pill, so that's regulating that hormone thing so they can manage their neurodiversity, but it then comes out in the nervous system in different ways, you know, like with the histamine things and flare ups and things that I see in my own child that I sort of think, oh, that's really interesting. It's that sort of neurodiversity. We'll find its self outlet somewhere, you know. But for them
Yeah,
to try and manage themselves to stick in their lane and you know try and sort of get themselves through this bit. You know, I mean, you think by the time your daughter and my daughter are at our age, where they will be, and that as women, isn't it? And you know, having the
yeah.
power to sort of get through what I think through the menopause and the crossover is quite tough, actually. I think it's quite a tough part because it goes on for fucking years. Honestly, I keep thinking, am I not off
Like
this
never
fucking ride
ending
yet?
roller coaster.
Honestly.
Let me off. Let me off.
Yeah, literally. It's quite cruel, really, isn't it? You know, men don't seem to like poor men, but I'm sure they do go through their things. But it's just not. It's just so not so physical, is it? You know, it's so
No.
different for a woman, isn't it? You have so many. I think I was reading something, and they had like the side effects as like the menopause, and like it was 28 things, and I thought, and that's probably just it. It's just like which ones kick you, isn't it? Which ones? I definitely think you tend to
But once.
fall down a hole more. You know, like, you
Yeah.
know, if you've been a bit subsided, always putting more weight on and that, you tend to go down that hole. If you get too much overtone, you tend to go down that hole. If you like a hot person, you get hotter. It does seem to pick up on one area or not, sort of thing.
Oh,
But I don't know. Anyway, we've all got to survive, haven't we? And all got to get on
we've
and
all
like,
or that's it. And what, like, see when you were like, what was the best resources for you when you were trying to like learn about basically like everything that you need to know now? Like, where's has it just been online, or has there
yeah.
been what's been your best resources for trying to like look at ADHD symptoms, menopause? Like, where's been best for you to
I
do
think
your research?
honestly, I think most of it's Instagram and scrolling. Like I literally
Yeah,
do because
yeah,
like if I'm not feeling great and like I can manage that with my brain type. Like for me, I reckon I've got something else as well because like for me to sort of download an app and do all that and sign up and you know tomorrow I'll tell you how if stand on your leg 3 times and it will oh fucking shut up. I find it's too much. So if I'm just scrolling through talk and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I get that. For me and the way my brain works, I'm good at listening. I like sort of seeing pictures and you know and having simple things to explain, you know, stuff. If I've got to go into you know things where I've got to do too much, I honestly I get bored. My attention's gone. Like I need quick listening information like and key things, so I would have picked up on all the people that I would have
hmm
stumbled across for that, you know, and I probably did what Davina and my friends probably, but they could only talk
yeah,
to me about menopause and you know that sort of stuff. And I actually think it's very measured on outward look as well, because at the time before all this happened I used to go to the gym a lot, so I was a good like size
yeah,
6. I was like you, I was pretty strict, pretty toned up, so I do sit in a slightly uncomfortable place for myself, but I have accepted for now. where that was the most important thing for me was what I outwardly looked like as well, and I felt strong. Went on antidepressants and it blew me up. So I ended up putting 2 stone on, and there was not a lot I could do with it, but I really wanted it to stop what I felt like. So I had to accept that. And I almost hid myself away, I'm not going to lie, with a bit of embarrassment of feeling so chubby. Because although we're saying women are nice to each other, you know, there's always those people that live where you live, isn't there? That's like, oh, look at her. And, you know, we all have that, don't we? That would be a lie. And that conversation of being nice doesn't include those people.
Yeah, that's it.
So,
it doesn't include them, fortunately.
Yeah, some of those ones that we all have in our life. But yeah, I think that sort of was a big sort of time where outwardly I felt quite vulnerable actually, because I wasn't like, and I was losing who I was. So, you know, you have to go with the ride, don't you, with that? I sort of forgotten what I was saying. Can you believe that?
I can actually.
And the person listening on the podcast are going, oh, fucking well, should they all shut up now? Definitely not.
They're like, this is definitely the right topic.
I'm never going to be able to listen to the podcast because I won't even be able to work out how to upload a podcast after this. I'll be like having to grab someone in the house going, can you do that? Thing is, I've got a voice that I look like I would suit very well being on a bloody market stall. You know I sound like I am, and I just want to be able to get over what I want to say, more importantly, you know, of like the thing. I'm grateful that you've taken my cherry this morning. I'm now not a podcast
I know,
virgin.
popped your cherry.
Holy
Popped your
hell.
cherry at this age.
Been a
Popping your
while.
podcast cherry.
Honestly. Oh my God, there's a few cobwebs come off of that. Jesus. I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? You just think, bloody hell. And that's just funny, isn't it? Like, no one talks about that bit, do they? Like, your sex drive and things like that. I mean, God, the poor men, really, isn't it? Because you do, like, think, I mean, it's literally like, I'm really hot, fuck off. It's like that in bed sometimes, you know? And you think, oh, my poor husband, you know? Like,
yeah, like, stop breathing, don't touch me.
that's real. Like, oh, I'm dead. It is sort of like, you know, but men don't, you know, they're a different animal, aren't they? They're here to procreate. You know, if he wanted to go and have more children, he could. Where you're done as a woman, aren't you? You know?
Totally different.
And that's the thing, isn't it? And that's why you get like all the Rolling Stones remarried, don't they? And Mick Jagger and all that. You just think, gee, like Ronnie Wood, and you just think, oh my good God, I actually. I mean, they're amazing guys, but they're done. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I'd be thinking, oh, come on, Ronnie, let's go for it, would you? So, you know.
Oh, absolutely not.
I just think I'd just rather earn my own money.
I'd rather have my own, sit with my own bar of chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, crack on, you lot. Yeah, but that's it. It's funny, isn't it? But, you know, I think you do have to embrace just being a woman and the journey that you're on here. It's just getting to the end of it alive.
Yeah, getting to the end of the line, taking the humour where into it as well, you know.
Honestly. Because you must get to the end, honestly. My kids will be coming into a home going, aren't you dead yet? And I'll be like, no, I just want to say a bit more. But you do question things later as well in your life. And maybe when you've gone through things, you sort of do think, what the fuck's this all about? Don't you, a little bit? You do think, like, what is it all about?
Question it.
You sort of think, you know, you just want to be happy and have a laugh, don't you, sort of thing. And you just think, like, just going through the menopause doesn't have to take your sense of humour, does it, all your life?
Even though it feels like it.
Yeah. And then that's the thing with doing this. It's pushing me hard. I'm after going through everything I've been through and trying to recover, because obviously when you read the chapter in my book, you'll read what actually did happen, and being able to sort of rebuild myself. And, you know, like what now, this has pushed me so hard. I've literally gone, fuck it, and jumped with my eyes shut, doing the Instagram, doing this morning, trying to write something down and not being able to write very well and all the rest of it. Well, I mean, you know, my book's got to be in.
You're smashing it.
Oh,
You're
no,
really embracing it. Really, really embracing it.
My chapter's got to be in on Saturday, and I can't even, like, I actually can't even fucking send it on the. I had to get my daughter, so we FaceTime. So I was showing her the screen so she could, like, so I could send it to her. But what I could then see on my screen was her and her mate pissing themselves laughing, going, your mum doesn't know how to do that. But why would I as well? Because I didn't do any of that at school. My job hasn't aligned for me. So I use my system at work that's all set up with my salon stuff on. And really, I just bought on my phone. I do all my emails, I do everything, I book my flight. I don't really, like, literally use the laptop particularly. You know, I do everything. So to actually cut and paste and, you know, you've got a Google Doc, and I'm like, what the frickin' hell's going on with that? So, you know, I might actually send a bomb off to Russia and it will come from my house. That'll sort everyone out. Throw it up, throw a swerve ball out there, won't it? Yeah, so, well, we're
But
a
no,
bit
you're
of
good. You're doing amazing, though. You're
it's
doing
all
amazing,
right.
and it's learning. It's
Oh,
learning all these new things. But you're doing so well, and I'm so proud of you because you have literally just. It's like anything. You make one decision in life, and then it's a catalyst for so many other positive things. But
yeah,
it's saying yes
yeah,
to that one thing, and then
100%.
it's learning along the way. You know, you're just
Yeah,
building your parachute as you're jumping down, and that's
yeah.
exactly what you're doing, and it's inspirational and it's brilliant. So you should be proud of yourself. You really should be proud of yourself.
You know what? It's really, really kind of you to say, and it's really hard when you're a strong and independent woman, and you know you have your own struggles with yourself sometimes. And to actually hear that from you is really, really kind. Thank you, because it's not easy sometimes when you're going through difficult times in your life. Not everyone's forward who you think's going to be forward because they don't understand.
Yeah.
It's
So
not for
true.
them being a bad person or anything, but you know, like I think going through and jumping onto this project has been very strange, you know, to like really meet the nicest people. And everyone sort of really
Yeah.
gets each other. Like it's been quite profound, hasn't it? Like in that way. And, you know, from starting like thinking, oh, I'm going to do that to what the fuck am I doing? I told my husband I'd run a competition because I thought he's going to be like, what the fuck are you writing that chapter for? And I have literally doubted myself so many times as well. You know, and it's really hard to do it, isn't it? And but like going through what I went through for a woman to read, if I can help one person look at them signs before and know what to do when those things are happening and how to get out the other side, if I make like one or two people read that and it doesn't let them slip where I slipped, well, I've done my job. Do you know? And
You've done your.
for me moving
Yeah.
forward, I never thought this was going to be a path I was taking. I thought, you know, I was cutting hair for the rest of my life, and maybe I will be. But if I can build on this, the things being a neurodivergent woman, going through this change in life and parenting neurodivergent children, and you know, guess what? I will have grandchildren too, won't I? You know, and like
Yeah.
the generations of lifespan of how this is going to go through. I like to think that my change will make that change better for my daughter when she's up the top end where I am, you know, and whether she, you know,
I really
how
think
she'll
you will.
cope, how she'll cope through it, because her
Yeah.
body's going to go through the same as a woman, isn't it? You know, at the
Yeah.
moment, she like, you know, the top end living her life, you know, she doesn't need the pressure on her there, but it will come, you
Yeah.
know. So, yeah,
Well,
being
you are
to
making.
see,
Mhm.
sorry,
You are, and it is for the family that's to come because there's always got to be a chain breaker
yeah,
in the family system. You know, okay, if you speak to somebody about what they've went through, they'll speak to you about it, but surface level, or it's not
yeah,
going to be, you know, they're
yeah,
still in that box. So to really be the catalyst for change for your whole family that's to come, now you're being you're the one that's been that chain breaker, saying that's it. I'm going to speak out because I feel like my purpose now is to help other women, and it's part of my story that can't be changed. This is real.
yeah.
I'm being true to myself, but you're going to have an impact now that is going to be down your generational line, which is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, and it is brave doing it, isn't it? You know, like,
Very, very.
and actually, my so, but yeah, so it is quite brave me doing it, and actually trying to write what I want to write and not be able to write all of it. You know, people around me are still in my lives, and it's quite difficult to sort of narrate it through. But yeah, let's hope there's a good editor because there's no full stops or capital letters or anything in it.
It's not for us to do. That's fine.
But you know what? I got suspended and got chucked out of school. I'd never thought in a million years I was going to be writing a fucking book.
Not writing a book on a
Do you know what I
podcast
mean? Like, it's just
on
hilarious.
Instagram, giving it big licks.
Yeah, you know, like, so I just think that's been, but that just proves to yourself, doesn't it? You know, like for women, just because we're sort of body's changing and everything's sort of pushing you in difficult places, it just makes you realise that, you know, you are who you are. You're probably the most powerfulest version of yourself, aren't you?
Yeah.
If
So
you're
just reach
responsible for
that.
yourself and, yeah, looking after, you know, that, then, yeah, it's been empowering, isn't it? And that's why I did the fuck it, I'm booking them flights too. Because I thought,
Yeah.
why not? What was my option? Washing, cleaning the house. My husband's going to rugby. So, you know what I mean? I thought, no, I'm going to go. And yeah, like you, I sort
Yeah.
of got deals on the flights. And then it kicked in where I was like, oh, I think I better book a car. Because what if I... And then I start overthinking everything. So anyway, yeah, whatever. So yeah, there we are.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's been
I was.
really...
I was.
Oh,
It's been amazing to talk today, and I can't wait to see you on Saturday. And
yeah.
I'm glad we both went. We've got the same brain. Fuck it. And then you went, booked, and I went, oh, so did I. And you were like, I've got a taxi. I was like, well, I'm glad you thought about that, because I was
Yeah.
just gonna, just my usual, just turn up and worry about everything when I get there, and then start panicking.
Yeah, but that
So I'm
is it.
looking
But
forward to it.
I'm a bit like that, but then I was in that sort of like mood where I was like, right, do this, and I went into organised. If you now, I won't be able to do anything for the rest of the day. I feel like I'm off my sort of patter of the day. I'll be like, oh, what am I doing? You know, I won't be able to get going now. It's sort of like, you know, even later they'll be like, what's for dinner? I'll be like, oh, I don't know. I can't always turn my brain round like so quickly. But yeah, no, so
Yeah.
no, and then I just thought, oh, I'm travelling on my own, I'm on my own, I'll like just get myself sorted. Then I feel like I'm organised for a change. So
Yeah.
yeah, interesting, isn't it? How you sort of become. But yeah, so I'm glad it'll be really good. We'll have nothing to fucking talk about.
I know.
We'll be like that. I've been hogging
I'm
out.
sure we will. Well, we're sure we will, because we've got, what day is it today? Is it Tuesday? Monday? What day is it? Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Is it
Yeah,
Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday.
Oh my goodness, so
Yeah, so
Tuesday.
nice.
So we've got a few days of life to happen, but we see each other.
Thing is, like, yeah, I'm flat
But
out
this
at
has
work
been,
now, and you think, oh God, yeah. So
but
that's it.
thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for letting me pop your cherry.
Literally, yeah, honestly, I couldn't think of anyone nicer to have done it, Michelle, honestly. When I get good, I might be able to return you, mightn't I, and try and do a little podcast myself. So
I will be on that. Absolutely. I think there's a place for everybody to be doing. Thing is, there's a place for everybody to be doing the same thing all over,
yeah,
because
yeah,
there's, do you know? So
yeah.
yeah, I'll happily be on that.
So yeah, well, when I get a bit more like in the vibe with it all and then learn how to do the tech, that's what I need to do. Is not marry Ronnie Wood. I need to be married to a computer bud, and then I'll be fine.
A
You know what I mean?
computer
I can just
whiz.
be like the
Well,
front of house and
I'm
like, ooh.
just hoping and praying. I'm hoping and praying that this is recorded for us, because it's went a couple of wee bits have went a bit funny. So I'm like, please just
Yeah, but then you could
let this
probably.
whole episode be perfect, please.
But then I think just put it on because if it's only a quick blip, you know, it might be all right. It's part of it, isn't it? It's being real,
Yeah,
isn't it? And
fuck it.
so I'll talk to you when you're not recording then, because I'm like, now
Yeah,
what happens?
I'll just stop. I'll stop recording right now, and then we'll have a quick blather, and then we'll get on with our day.
Well,
But
thank
thank
you
you.
for
Thank
listening,
you, Hayley
everyone.
Mox.
Honestly, and thank you,
Yeah.
Michelle, so much. Lots of love.
It's been amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.